Starting off with tensions on the Korean Peninsula.
That's right. We're going to start by looking at the front page of the Wall Street Journal today. There's a photo of Kim Jong-un near the Yellow Sea border, and it says there, North Korea ups tensions on the frontier. Now, he reportedly instructed his military to deal deadly strikes, so aggressive rhetoric that a lot of nations have accused him of warmongering. And it's been a very tense week between North and South Korea. Monday, North Korea said it was reneging on a 60-year-old armistice that has maintained an uneasy peace with South Korea since the war between them in the 1950s. Now, as you can imagine, this is getting a lot of reaction in the North Korean press, in South Korean press as well, rather. We're going to take a look at HANKYOREH, which is a newspaper there, and it points out that North Korea cannot unilaterally nullify this armistice agreement. It can alter it, but it can't nullify it, and it outlines exactly what's in this 1953 armistice agreement that was signed with the UN, China, and North and South Korea. And it points out that the rise in these military tensions between the North and the South amounts to a game of chicken that could prove to be very dangerous for the region.
As you said, it's often portrayed as being about bluster, being about bargaining, but The Guardian says this time round there are real reasons to be fearful.
That's right. The Guardian says fasten your seatbelts. And the reason for this is because, well, this has happened before and recently. Just 4 years ago, there were some deadly skirmishes between the two sides. On top of that, successful nuclear and missile tests may have empowered North Korea. And analysts have compared this to something that's called the seatbelt effect. Basically, when seatbelts were put into cars, people started driving more recklessly. So perhaps this is what's happening with North Korea. But The Guardian says don't panic quite yet, because China is key to solving this problem. And so far, China has stopped backing its neighbor.
Okay, let's move on to a different story now, one we've been hearing a lot about, the Pope.
The Pope, yeah, the Pope. We're going to look at a cartoon of the Pope. It's the second day of the very secretive conclave, and this is a cartoon that's in the International Herald Tribune today, where you see two Swiss guards there standing guard outside the conclave. The question everyone is wondering is, when are we going to know who the next Pope is? And, well, this might give a hint. One of them is whispering to the other, I'll tweet before you do, so maybe that's how we'll learn about it. Meanwhile, the Vatican is also in the editorial of the International Herald Tribune today, but for different reasons. According to the IHT, it's part of an unholy alliance with Russia and Iran. So what is this about? Basically, there's a conference that's underway at the United Nations right now regarding women's rights. It's the 2-week annual meeting of the delegates of the Commission on the Status of Women. And basically, delegates of that commission fear that they're not going to be able to agree on a final communique of their goals regarding women's rights because they blame the Vatican, Russia, and Iran for blocking any kind of progress, for eliminating any kind of language that would have any reference to things like abortion rights. And the International Herald Tribune says that this is a terrible thing, especially given what it calls an epidemic that's gender-based violence.
Okay, next up, the referendum in the Falkland Islands. I'm glad The Independent has done this. It's what I wanted to know yesterday when we were reporting on this. Who voted against?
Who voted against this? This is what The Independent is investigating today. Basically, 99.8% of islanders voted yes in the referendum, which means that 3 people on the island voted to leave the UK. And now The Independent sent their reporter, Cahal Milmo, to the island to find out just who are these people. Were they people that were informed, wanting independence? Were they being rather provocative and calling for the Argentinian flag to be raised? Well, despite all his best efforts, he didn't manage to find out who these 3 people on the island who voted against this referendum were. He said it was kind of like a witch hunt. In fact, one man who was rumored to perhaps have voted no in the referendum, he reacted as if, quote, he murdered puppies for a living. So obviously, according to this article, those who voted no are probably keeping a very low profile.
Okie dokie. We're moving on now to a man who looks like he was hoping to be a hero as his video went viral, but he's ended up losing his job.
That's right. Let's take a look at this video if we can. It went viral in January, and it shows a British man named Paul Marshallsea on a beach in Australia. Now, he's grabbing a huge shark there by the tail. The shark was threatening children who were swimming in the water. Now, He was hailed as a hero for tackling this shark, but he's just been sacked from the children's charity he works for with his wife. Basically, they were on sick leave for work-related stress when they took 2 months holiday in Australia. So, oops. Basically, when the people he worked for saw this footage, they decided that he'd been dishonest. They fired him. Basically, if he was too weak to work, how could he tackle a shark?
Don't know what the moral to that story is. Don't touch a shark when you're on sick leave. Florence VILLEMINOT, thanks very much for that round up with the international press. Let's get a reminder of the world news headlines now, and still waiting for the white smoke, second day.